So today is Father's Day, and I want to start off by telling all the fathers happy Father's Day. It is a blessing from God to be able to be a parent, to have children, and to raise those children. So to all of those fathers out there, definitely want to tell you happy Father's Day. Um, my father is not here. He did pass away June 30th, 2018. And so as I sit here before you today, I can talk about my dad. I can talk about Father's Day and it not be hurtful for me. I may still get teary-eyed because I do miss my dad, but ultimately, like the place that I was at back when he passed away to the point where I am now is completely different. When my father passed away, I was actually grieving the loss of my marriage. And trying to process and kind of begin healing from that situation. And then my father passed, and it was like, for me, that was the straw, right? Like, at that time in my life, it was just so much stuff happening. And although my father he had gone to the hospital, he had just been released from the hospital prior to his passing, it was still unexpected. Like, he had the hospitalization, he had the admission, but I thought he was okay, like he was recovering. I think he may have, if I remember correctly, maybe spent a few days, maybe a week in the hospital. And then they discharged, but I knew it was something with his lungs and breathing, as he was trying to explain to me what was going on. But I thought he was okay, right? And so we talked. He was back home. So I wasn't expecting, like, it wasn't a situation where he'd gotten a diagnosis and he was getting treatment for a while and we knew it was a potential where he could pass. Like, it was, for me, I don't know, like, I'm gonna say this, I know sometimes I get shielded from information because I am so emotional in how I take things. So I don't know if it was a situation where there was more to what was going on and I just didn't know, but I thought he was fine. And then the next thing I know, my brother's giving me a call, and this was after Father's Day. Actually, like I said, my dad passed in June, go figure. So the month that we celebrate our fathers for Father's Day is also the same month that my father passed away. I just remember my brother calling me and saying, have you talked to one of our uncles? I think it may have been, have you talked to Uncle Tommy? And I was like, no. But I just knew then something was wrong. But I didn't expect it was my dad. I just figured somebody was sick or maybe somebody else had passed, but not my dad. And so when my brother broke the news to me, I remember, I guess I was in the bathroom, maybe doing my hair. I don't remember what I was doing. I just remember being in the bathroom and dropping to the floor like, oh my God. And it was so unreal for me. Like, I could not believe what I was hearing, and I was in shock. And then shortly after, like, I started to kind of spiral into like a depression. Because again, remember, I'm trying to process some of the events that were occurring surrounding the loss of my marriage. So I'm kind of grieving that in a sense, because there was a lot of loss associated with that. And then now follow right behind that is now I got to grieve my dad because he's gone. And it was tough. It was hard. Very hard. Like, that was a point in time in my life where I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this, because that's how I felt at the time. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get through this, but I did. But God. But it was really challenging. And so when I reflect on Father's Day now, like I said, I'm in a different space. So whereas in the past, for a few years, Father's Day was a time where, like, I'm still grieving. I'm in tears. I'm in shambles. Like, I don't feel so good. I kind of withdraw because that's just how I am when I'm going through things. I'm not the type of person that reaches out to people for support. I kind of turn inwards and I kind of isolate and withdraw. That's how I handle things. That's how I've always handled things. And so that's what I would do for Father's Day. I kind of be in a funk, for Father's Day. But life is different now, and I'm in a different place. And so now I can look at Father's Day from a different perspective. And so whereas in the past, I used to look at Father's Day from a perspective of loss and hurt and pain, I now look at it from a place of joy and happiness and peace. And that's because I'm not reflecting on the loss itself. Like, I'm not focused on my dad ain't here. Oh my God, my dad ain't here. I wish I could talk to my dad again. Do I still feel like that? Yes. But it's not my ultimate focus. I focus on the good memories. When I woke up this morning and in my meditation and prayer time, and my thoughts go to, it's Father's Day, my thoughts go to my dad. And I'm thinking of positive memories. Like, I'm thinking about conversations we had. I can hear his voice in my head. I can see different images. I think about, when he came to visit and he was outside, like in our old neighborhood. My son had a basketball goal and my dad was trying to shoot some hoops. So I can think about those things. And whereas in the past, and don't get me wrong, because I'm kind of tearing up now. I'm just trying to be a big girl about it. It's not like I don't have, like I lack emotions and like I'm just stone cold, like it's all good kind of thing. No, I still will drop some tears about my dad. I miss my dad, and that's still ever present. But it's not a sense of anger or pain. I miss him, but I have the joy of the memories we have. So I may think about him and still cry a little bit, but I'm not going into this deep, dark hole of depression and emotional devastation because my dad's not physically here, right? And so that's my journey. I know everybody is different, and I know grief, everybody processes grief and loss differently, and there's different types of loss. Like, so I deal with the loss of my dad as far as him passing away and not physically being here. There are some of you out there that are dealing with the loss of dad in a sense of he's still physically here, but for some reason there's a severed relationship. You don't have a relationship with your father, or you don't have the relationship that you feel like you should have or want to have with your father. And there's grief associated with that, especially for those, now for those it's different. So for those who have had their father in their life, and then for some reason, let's just say like separation of the parents' relationship, divorce or whatever, then that relationship has become that father relationship, that father-child relationship became severed. And that can happen for various reasons. We know that it could be, fathers leave and then they create a new family, or, there's a separation between the parents and, mom is hurt. And so mom, keeps the children with her, and, maybe dad's not allowed to see the children. So it's so many different variables and reasons why children lose the relationship with a parent. And right now, specifically, we're talking about fathers and dads. So the loss is not always because of death. The loss could just be because of severed relationship. And that could be for various reasons. And so, this video is not to point out specific reasons or play blame games or anything like that, but really to focus on the children and like processing that type of grief. Because like for me, I did have a portion of that, right? So my parents did get divorced when I was really young, and so the separation came because of course the family separated, my parents separated, but not only that, my dad remained in Michigan, and my mom relocated to Tennessee, to Memphis. And so for me, there was separation there. So as a child, I dealt with a little bit of grieving there. I didn't quite understand, right? I didn't know at the time like I grieved anything, but there was a separation. Now, me and my dad still remained in relationship. So I talked to my dad all the time growing up. I would go visit him once or twice a year. we had a good relationship. So it wasn't a sever of the relationship, but there was distance between us. So I didn't see my dad every single day. You know, he wasn't in the home. We lived across the map. So there was some separation there. So I did experience it to an extent in childhood, as far as dad still being present on the earth, but there being some sort of separation. But thanks be to God, I still had a relationship with my dad. So my relationship with my dad was never severed where we don't talk, or there's some kind of strife there where we didn't talk, because we did. We talked on a regular basis. I was definitely my daddy's girl. I love my dad. Love my dad, right? So I had a good relationship. But there are children that maybe still children or now in adulthood that didn't have that same experience. So parents separated, and that relationship with dad was severed for some reason, whatever that reason may have been. And so there's a grieving process associated with that as well. So for me, the grieving was the loss of my dad's physical presence every day in my life. But for others, is the loss of the presence, the loss of the relationship itself. And then you take that a step further, and you also have the children who grew up without a father, so didn't have a father or a father figure in their life at all. And I think that while I didn't experience that, I know people who have, and I feel like that may also be, I can't speak from experience, but a grieving as well is the lack, right? In every situation, if you look at it, whether it's the child who grew up and didn't have a father figure, the child who, parents separated and dad is in another place, and you have a relationship, but you lack the presence of your father every day, or the children who the relationship was severed, right? Meaning you had the relationship, but then when the parents separated, the relationship with the father was completely severed or barely existent, right? And then you have the lack of dad because of physical death. So there's different. So even though they're all different forms of lack and grieving, at the end of the day, it's still lack of that father, however you lack him, in whatever capacity you lack him. And then you also have that grief process that you may go through. It's like, there's stages of grief, and I think that some of us can get stuck, right? So as you're going through the stages, you may get stuck at that where you're in denial, or you may get stuck where you're super angry about it, and you don't really go through all the stages to the part where you're healed and you said, yeah, okay, I understand this, I accept it. And there may be various things in life that have caused, a person to get stuck in their grieving process. And again, we know that people grieve differently, right? So it's not for 3 months you're gonna be in this phase, and another 2 months you're gonna be in this phase. It's all different for all of us, right? And so for me, it took, with the actual physical loss of my dad on the earth, it took me a few years to kind of get to the place where I am now, where I can smile about the memories of my dad, and I may still cry and I may still feel emotional as far as I miss him, but I'm not in the process where I'm going into any kind of depression or anything like that. I may need to take some time to myself, today. I'm like, okay, I need to just kind of step away and just but today, it's Father's Day, and I feel great. I woke up blessed with memories of my dad, beautiful memories of my dad, fun memories of my dad. So I'm good. And I know that's not everybody's space today. But the reason I wanted to talk about that for Father's Day is because I know some of us have struggled and are still struggling. And I wanted to just kind of let people know what really helped me. For some people, it's therapy. There are other things, like journaling and, things to go on your healing journey. For me, it was God. And it was me allowing God to fill those voids and spaces and heal the pain. So God did it. You know what I mean? So I did not go through, I'm an advocate for therapy. I didn't go through therapy. I have been in therapy before, but it was not for the passing of my father. I do believe that had I taken the initiative back in the past when I was really dealing with, like, going through that depressive state, grieving my dad and trying to process that, I do believe that if I had have gone into therapy back then, that the journey would have been less rocky for me. So I'm definitely an advocate for therapy, but at the time I didn't. I've for a long time been kind of closed off, like with my personal stuff, like very private, closed off, don't like to share private things or personal things. And I'm getting to a space in my life now where I'm like, you know, some of these private personal things are a testimony that can help other people. So I don't think that the journey that we take in life should be, some things should totally be private, right? But then I think that some things should be shared, definitely in a setting of therapy, so that you can learn how to process those things and heal from them. But also in a space of sharing with others so that people can see, dang, I'm not the only person going through that. Okay, somebody else experienced that. Oh, that's exactly how I was feeling when that happened to me. Because the trials and tribulations that we have faced are also some of the things that other people may have faced, and you may be able to shed some light or share your story or testimony and give hope to somebody else. And so I'm trying to, as you can see, step away from that a bit. Like I said, some things I feel like they're private and they should remain private, but I also think that some of the things that you go through are meant to be shared, so that other people can, one, help you through your journey, and you can also help others through their journey. So I didn't go through therapy, but boy, did I lean on God a whole lot. And I don't think that one replaces the other. So I'm not saying if you go to therapy, you don't need to lean on God, because I feel like in all aspects of every area of your life, you need to lean on God, whether you're in therapy or not. So therapy for me does not take the place or the role of God in healing a broken heart. I think it aids it, it helps. It's another tool, but it's not a replacement for me, from my perspective, in relation to God being the center focus and being able to heal the broken heart. So that's kind of what got me through my grieving process in a lot of things, but specifically my loss as it relates to my dad. And so I believe that just like God helped me process it, God helped me heal, God filled those voids for me, that he can absolutely and will absolutely, if you allow him, do the same thing in your life, no matter what the lack or void is as it relates to a father in your life. So for, you know, my people who have physically lost their father, you know, I reflect on a Bible verse, Psalms 147:3. He healeth the broken in heart and bindeth up their wounds. And you know, wounds are not just physical, right? Like, you got heart wounds, and losing a dad, whether it's through physical death or the loss or change in the relationship or lack of relationship, God can heal that broken heart. He can come in and do what nobody else can do. And I think that sometimes what we do as people when we're in lack, other people do play a part in our healing, can play a part in our healing process. It's not unhealthy to have other relationships, but sometimes I think what we do is, instead of giving God that space, we go and try to find a human being to fill that void or fill that space. And sometimes that can lead, you know, to bad relationships or unhealthy attachments in relationships, right? trying to get somebody else to fill a void that was left by another person. And so for me, I feel like if you let God heal your broken heart, you let God fill those empty spaces, those voids, then that allows you to heal. And so then when you enter into relationships with other people that God has positioned for your life, then they can, fill some of those voids or fill some of those spaces. In a sense, God has already filled it and healed it, and now he's just bringing somebody to complement it. You know what I mean? So I think it's healthier from my perspective. And I'm not talking from a clinical perspective right now. I'm talking from a spiritual perspective. It's allow God in and allow him to heal and feel. And then when he's healed and he's filled, then you're in a better position to have other humans, beings enter into your life, and it not be an unhealthy or toxic kind of relationship or friendship. And when we talk about God feeling, so I just talked about him healing from the verse in Psalms, but then the feeling. So Ephesians 19, to know the love of Christ which passes knowledge, that ye might be filled with the fullness of God. And so not only is God able to heal and mend your broken heart, but then those little spaces that are left from absence or lack, you're able to be filled with the fullness of God. And so now you're healed and filled by God, right? Making you whole and complete. And so I know you probably have heard people talk about, relationships and like people getting into relationships and they're not complete or full, and they're looking for somebody to complete them. So some of us who have that lack of father, you're looking for somebody, you're searching for somebody to complete and fill. But that's God's job. That's God's place. Let God heal. Let God feel. And when I say feel, I'm talking about F-I-L-L, not F-E-E-L. Fill you up, right? Let him do it. And then you're complete in him. And so then you're not looking for somebody else, some other person to come in and take a spot that they can't really take for you. They can't really feel it. They can't really heal it because it's not really their place. They can help you through the process. So people, like I said, people have purpose. They can help you through the process. But ultimately, it is my belief that it's God's place and position to heal and feel those voids. And then as you allow God to heal and feel, and then you become complete in him, like God is making something new. He's creating something brand new from what you may have lost. And so I think about 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things become new. So when we allow God into our hearts, not just because of a loss, sometimes that is the catalyst for us opening space for God. Sometimes we've already had a relationship with God, but maybe we've stepped away or maybe not prioritized. And then sometimes loss and lack can kind of bring you to a humbling point where you like, I need you, Lord. Like, I need you. I can't do this by myself. And nobody else can help me through this like you can. Right? And so then when we release our will and we say, like, I surrender, I accept Jesus as Lord and Savior in my life. Now I'm in Christ and God is making me new. He's doing a new thing. Isaiah 43:18-19. Remember ye not the former things, neither the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. So it's like God can take the brokenness of our, like all the little pieces from all the lack. And I know specifically we're talking about that missing piece from the missing relationship of our fathers, for whatever the reason is that we feel that lack or that void or that missing piece. He could take all of those pieces and mend them back together. All of the emptiness and voids that we feel, and fill it back up. And then as we allow him to, he can do a new thing in us, through us, for us. And so on this Father's Day, again, happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. You know, you are definitely appreciated. I just want those of us who have experienced loss in the area of our dads, regardless of what the loss is or how it happened, to just allow God in, allow him to heal and mend your broken heart, allow him to fill those empty spaces and voids with his goodness and his love. Allow him to do a new thing. Allow him to complete you, to make you ready for that new thing, whatever it may be. So I hope that everyone has a beautiful day. Those of you who do have your fathers in your life and you have a good relationship with them, that is a blessing. You know that if they're here on earth still, that is a blessing. So love on them and spend time with them. For those of us who have experienced loss in our dads, we had a good relationship with our dads, but he's not physically here anymore. I pray that you're able to focus on the positive, loving, warm memories that you have of him. For those of you all who lack a relationship, your dad's still here on earth, but for some reason you lack a relationship with him, or you don't have the type of relationship you wished you had with him, I just pray that you allow God to love on you today. He is our Father. All of our fathers. So like even if you lack a physical father here on this earth, you always have a father in God. The very breath that we breathe in our lungs came from him. If it was not for him, we would not be here. So reflect on that even though you may not physically have your father here, or not physically, if you may not have the relationship, that's the one I was talking about, the relationship that you'd like to have with your father, you lack the relationship with your father who is still physically here, that you have a father in God. And I mean, he loves us unconditionally. Nothing by any means will separate us from the love of God, our Father. Nothing. So, think on that. Take that in. That while you may lack the relationship that you love to have with your physical, earthly father, that you have a father that loves you unconditionally, and nothing will keep you from his love. So I hope everybody has a blessed day. Forgive me because I got a little emotional throughout this video, but that's because it really touches my heart for multiple reasons, not just my own personal experiences, but from the personal experiences of people that I love. So be blessed. Happy Father's Day, and enjoy this day in whatever way you can with the love of God.
You know what to do. don't let it rule you.